Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chewing the Accounting Fat, episode 2. I will just let everybody roll in. We've got quite a number of accounting firms joining us this afternoon and probably this morning if you're in the West, or we've actually got some joining us from Singapore as well. So welcome to our Singaporean firms. So we'll just wait maybe 1 or 2 minutes till everyone jumps in and then we will commence. But thank you very, very much for joining us, giving us your time. We're going to have some fun this afternoon with my co-host, Jason Cunningham. Jace, I know we called each other Paul and Jason the other day. It feels a little bit uncomfortable. But Jace, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, Paul. How are you?
It feels...
I'm pretty pumped about today.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's a
pretty cool guest, which is awesome.
We do, and I will introduce those two guests very, very shortly. Let me just check how our guests are running, how our participants are running. Okay, Mahesh, I might just get you to this 0. Can you check the participants? Yeah.
How did the Bluebaggers go last night, Genso?
Well, mate, it's a funny thing because we did our promo probably only, 7 days ago, and who would have thought within 7 days, Carlton will be 0-2. Yes, and that's not something that I don't think any Blue Bags are proud of. And if you're an SEN boy, so if you've been listening to a bit of SEN, it has been blowing up this morning.
PJ, all I know is that you were talking up a big game and it's footy's back. You're throwing a footy around there. You're pretty quiet about it, young man.
No, not quite about it. Just we're not here to talk about footy, Jace. We're not here to talk about footy. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to get going. For those of you that have joined us and just joined us, or for those of you that were with us, welcome to Chewing the Accounting Fat, episode 2. Look, we've got a blockbuster next 45, 48 sort of minutes. I've got my co-host here, Jason Cunningham. He's on the big screen. So, Jace, how are you, mate?
Yeah, really good, James. How are you, mate?
Yeah, brilliant. So we'll go through that again. And look, we've got 2 special guests that are joining us to talk about our topic today. Now, Jace, the great part is that every single time we tend to throw out a topic of around people and sometimes around branding, which brings in that marketing element of everything, we tend to get a really high number of attendees that want to be a part of this. So we've brought in 2 special guests, which I'm pretty pumped about as well. We have Belinda Agnew. We have the stunning Belinda Agnew with us, and we've got the stunning Leigh Dunsford with us. Hi, Belinda. Hey, Leigh. How are you?
I'm well.
That's good.
With the big green screen. I love it.
Yeah, we're doing our best. We're doing our best to bring, hopefully, a new style, new look to everything. Now, that's a good point. Now, both Belinda and Jason were going to join us today live in the studio, but unfortunately, we've had these interesting mornings where there's a lot of people that decide to protest over certain things. So I know I got caught in traffic today, this morning, and I know, again, Belinda and Jace was the same. So we didn't want to actually risk the fact that they weren't going live. So they're joining us via Zoom. They're on the big TV, and we're going to talk to you about some pretty important stuff. Now, Leigh, how are you, mate? I know you're based in Sydney. How's things in Sydney? Has it started to calm down a bit?
Yeah, the rain started to let up a bit. So we had, I think everyone's seen on the news that we've pretty much been washed out the last week or so. So I woke up the other day and we had the sunshine coming out. I was like, couldn't believe the sun was out. So I jumped out of bed and, got the kids up so we could go outside straight away, enjoy the morning. But it's kind of like I don't want to say a mini lockdown, but it certainly felt like I was inside. I couldn't do anything, but not like a lockdown.
Yeah, it just stays up on the lockdown. Talk to me.
We've been free months.
Let's go 112 days in a row, big boy, right? And then we think we're out of it, and then he gives us another quick 5.
Yeah, we won't go into that.
You looking good?
I'm good.
I just can't quite detect where that accent's from. Is that South Yarra or Brunswick?
I don't know. Have a guess.
Radelaide?
Come on. No, South Yarra. But I'm originally from Sydney.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. I'm
originally from Sydney, so.
Very good pick up on the accent though, Jace. I must admit that you're more switched on than me, mate.
Yeah,
Attention to detail. Now, good segue. Now, two key things we're going to talk about today. And I think when we raise this, we always get really good feedback, you know, whether it's the people side we'll talk about with regards to whether it's individual, team, whether it's culture, whether it's feedback. I know we spoke about even in the little teaser, Jace, with regards to how do we go about building the right brand to then attract people, to retain people. How do we, as employers, and you know, most of the people that are joining us today are directors or partners of accounting firms. So therefore, they're always looking to, how can we get that little bit of an edge? And I know you raised something even in our teaser where you lost or you put a lot of time and effort into an individual, into a graduate, and then you ended up losing her. So we're going to delve a little bit deeper. We've got the two experts here to talk about from their perspective and their ideas. And I know, Jace, you're going to come from your idea as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of something along the way as well. So, Jace, let's start with you, mate. I want to know, because I know for those of you that didn't see the teaser, there's a few things. What are you hoping to achieve out of this session today with Belinda and Leigh?
Yeah, look, PJ, it's probably a selfish topic for mine because you know, often when I get together with other public practitioners, our biggest gripes are our clients, you know, and our team members. And so for mine, I really want to focus around how do we create and build a brand that's attractive enough so that key people want to join our organisation, but then adhesive enough to hold on to them. And as I mentioned, we recently lost a young graduate who we put 4.5 months into and a bit of money and a bit of time, and we were just starting to make some money off her when one of the big four lured her back and we lost her. And when I asked her, hey, Molly, how come you leave? And she goes, Jay, it's KPMG, you know, how can I say no? And I thought to myself, I find that intriguing because I said, well, why are you looking for a job? You've been here only for 4.5 months. And she said, no, that's not the case at all. I actually applied for a job with them and then lockdown happened and they retracted the offer. You guys had a position, so I came and joined you. And then now rang me back up and said, hey, we've changed our mind. Do you want to come back? And I mean, I said, I can't believe they treated you like that. You still go back. And so it may be an instance where we're never going to compete with it, but I'm keen to get an opinion about, you know, how do we create a brand that is enabling us to attract key people in our organisation? What's involved in developing a brand? I mean, we don't have the sort of brass at the big four or mid-tier firms, and there may be some mid-tier firms on here, but you know, we're a large or a large small business, if you like. So we've got 60 team members in 2 states. So how do we compete with that and what sort of energy? And then the second piece is, what's a fair enough level of expectation for our team members? And this is a big one for me, right? Where should you set the bar? I mean, I've heard many times, if your team members are no good, it's easy, just move them on or, you know, counsel them out. If they're really good, look after them and pay them well. What do you do with those guys that are in the middle? They're okay, you know? So they're probably the two big takeaways for me, PJ.
Okay, good. There's some great things we're going to add to that. There's great things that Leigh's going to add from a people point of view as well as Belinda. But let's start with that because let's start with brand. So we might start with you, Belinda, because I think some of the key things, I mean, you look at the practice and you look at Jason, and I think even before we went live, Jace does have call it a media presence that he's worked pretty hard on. You know, it's something that we've spoken about, you know, sort of we've been around each other for 20 odd years. So I know you've worked hard on that. That's helped you grow the business. So you do have a brand presence out there as well, and you still tend to lose team members to, let's say, a KPMG, because there's some things you just can't compete with. But this is where, to all the other firms that are joining us today, Glenn, I'm going to start with you and say, what are the sorts of things that in today's world, and we're in a 2021 world, which is very different to maybe when I started working, I'm going to give away a bit of age here, back in 86. So it's very different to the world we're living in today and some of the expectations of the younger people as well. So what do you think in terms of brand presence we just need to have? What's really important?
Are we going to me? Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
We are going to you, Belinda.
Cool.
Sorry.
Cool. So brand presence in regards to culture and retaining staff, right? So the big one, I actually have been on Clubhouse quite often. If you're not on Clubhouse, you need to get on it. It's this new app, this audio app, where you literally network with tons of people across the globe in similar industries. I've met a ton of people on Clubhouse. So I was in a room on Clubhouse and they were actually talking about this topic. They were like, how can we attract and retain staff but also build a brand in the mix of it. And the thing is that so many people are talking about brand, build a brand and attract people and get people, you know, in the doors. But what we're forgetting is you should be able to allow your staff to also create a personal brand, which is super underestimated, especially in the service industry. If you're dealing with people, people buy people, and people remember you based on how you make them feel. So if you allow your staff to build a personal brand on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and all these other social media platforms, such as Clubhouse, which is a new platform, I would definitely get your staff to start creating a personal brand. A, it's super fun. B, you're attracting people to your brand. And C, they will stay because not only they're creating a brand for your company, but they're creating a brand for themselves. So,
Belinda, let me jump in and ask you a question. I just want to challenge you on that if I can, because I'm going to speak like
absolutely.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah, cool. So one of the inherent dangers for us as accountants, so at the first instance, I'm going to tell you that I agree with you, right? But there's some inherent dangers with that. So for me as a public practitioner, and we have a team, and I've got my team members creating a brand within a brand, and then our customers are engaging with them. What happens if that person then decides to leave and set up on their own?
Yeah,
there's a bit of a risk.
Question.
Yeah, it's a big risk for us. So how do we counter that?
Yeah, so a lot of people talk about, you know, if I was to create a personal brand, how would I sell off or exit my business if people are just coming to me directly? It's a common question. Also, a common question is, if I'm building my staff or upskilling my staff, what's going to stop them from going out on their own and doing their own thing? The thing is, you can't stop that. You know, either way, we can't control if somebody already has in their mind or planted the seed of going out on their own. They're already going to do it either way, even if they have created a personal brand or not. So I would still push in upskilling and getting them to create a personal brand, because if you think about it, let's just say in a sales world, as a recruiter or as a software company, we build sales people, and those sales people are usually facing clients or potential clients and bringing these clients on. Most of the time, there's a non-compete clause for a reason, because once the salesperson moves, they can easily take all the customers that they've built with that company over to the direct competitor. It's the same thing. Like you can't stop it other than having a non-compete compete clause, which you already have in your contract, or I think that would be the main one. Is you can't really stop somebody from going out on their own. They're going to do it anyway. But show interest in the mix of it, you know, of creating a personal brand. But yeah, personal brand's huge, and I always am a big advocate for my team as well.
So, Belinda, you're sort of saying that there's nothing that we can't really stop it, so we might as well, promote it, but make sure that we have it tied off with a really airtight employment contract, policies and procedures document, and also be checking in with your clients as well. And I think that's one of the things that we try to do in our organisation is we want our team members to be the very best that they can be. And let's face it, in today's age of 2021, as opposed to the archaic times when Janso first started working, I think he said 1986, I think there was still black and white TV then, Belinda. But in today's world, people are creating personal brands anyway. They're doing it on Facebook, they're doing it on Instagram, they're doing it on Twitter, LinkedIn, and all that sort of stuff. So they're doing it anyway.
Absolutely.
They might as well do it under your watch as opposed to doing it, behind your back.
Correct. And you know, there's a saying, I don't know how it goes, but it's like scared money is no money, right? And it's like if you're scared to get your person to start a personal brand, it's always going to fail in the end. But you know, everybody has a personal brand. We all have Instagram, we all have Facebook, we all have LinkedIn. That's a personal brand. So why not leverage their connections and their audience based on what you're offering as a service?
What's your position on that, Leigh?
Well, actually, I've been quietly sitting here listening to both of you. I tend to agree with what everyone's saying, and what Belinda's, Jason said something earlier, which was just paying a lot of money because they're good, so I just keep throwing more money at somebody. And Belinda's idea of create a personal brand is absolutely correct as well. But one idea or concept that larger organisations are starting to implement really well at the moment, and that is effectively moving that idea into part of the company ethos, which is creating and promoting people to create their own personal brands within that organisation and promoting those personal brands to the outside world, to people looking inside to those companies and wanting to come to work for them. So that can range from anything to showcasing employees, talking about your employees more. One thing that I noticed in the accounting space particularly is we all do a fantastic job, or you guys will do a really, really good job of, I guess, servicing your own client base, and you get to a level where you've got 20, 30 staff, maybe less, 5, 2, it doesn't really matter what size you've got. But the focus is always continually on how many clients have we got, bang, how great are our clients, bang, all these things that are happening, and you're marketing that, and everyone's marketing that same thing, but forgetting that the way to attract people and create a different culture and ethos about your business is to start talking about how great your staff are on your own homepage, on your social media, interview your staff, talk about your staff, get your staff in on your own advertisements, on your job ads, get your staff interviewing people coming into the business, because what you will find is you've got clients which like what you do, they might just be happy with what you do, they might not be happy with what you do, and some of them will talk about your business, but there's someone in your organisation which lives and breathes your business every day, and no matter who they talk to in a bar, at the local barbecue, anywhere, they go, hey, I work for X accounting or company, yes. They're a great company to work for, I love what they do for me, they actually have my interest at heart, they've got certain things in place.
Leigh, that's a really, mate, you just highlighted a really important point there that I was somewhat ignorant not to see. And that point around having your team members promote your business for you. And if we created, in Australia, there's a bit of a, and in touching on what Belinda's talking about, there's a bit of a tall poppy syndrome, or there's a significant one, but also people are a bit embarrassed to say, look at me, look at my brand and all that sort of stuff. And then when people say, like I could get on the practice's social media pages and say, come work at the practice, it's fantastic. And people go, mate, you own the freaking joint. Of course you're going to say that. Versus a 25-year-old young girl who's been here for 4 or 5 years, she's just graduated, she's just become a CPA. And if she's out there promoting, hey guys, what an awesome place to work. This is wonderful. People are going to take her word for it way over my word, because they know that, my word is biased, because I'm just looking for employees who are trying to cut out recruiters. Whereas if she is out there saying, mate, this is a great place to work, it's probably similar to what they do in organisations like Google and Facebook and these sort of upper echelon businesses, where it's the team are driving the culture.
Yeah, and look, you just can't fake authenticity. I mean, you can't, we're not advocating that, hey, everyone that's on this chat today, you can just go out and start implementing this. There's a process to get to that point where your staff become your advocates for your business. And what actually happens is you find by default, if you start thinking about this radical idea that maybe I start to skew my homepage or maybe my website, and this is one idea, of course, but away from, we've got 20 partners in our company and we're so great, look at all the years of experience we've got, to these are my staff talking about the clients that they work with, and down to the level of just the most junior person working in that company, and they get excited to be interviewed and showcased on the business's whatever, marketing or social or whatever, talking about a 5-person client they've been working with and why it's rewarding to fix their books for them and alleviate problems for their staff. But it starts with, and look, this is nothing new. The client engagement idea started in the 60s. It's just how we deliver that, tactically deliver that differently today. And every employment engagement or wellbeing program, beanbags and all these things, it's different for every company. You might look at an accountancy company down the road and go, they've got 1 hour flexi day a week or something. That won't work for you because that's not what your people want. You need to communicate with your people and figure out what's right for your organisation in terms of the benefits and flexibility options that you want to push out.
And Leigh, just on that, one of the points that you raised, which I think is important to not be remissive and dismiss, is that if you take the typical partner of an accounting firm, he is a middle-aged man, right? And he's talking right now. And at 48, I didn't grow up with social media. It arrived when I was a bit older. The younger generation, so a lot of the accounting firms' web pages and their social media presence, it's pretty wooden, it's pretty generic.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you get kids that are 25 that have grown up with Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook? Like I look at my kids, and I have three boys. 2 are 19, they're twins, and a 14-year-old son. And they laugh at me, right? And when I text my kids, they don't text back. I have to Snapchat my kids because that's the way they communicate. And I was like, Jack, I sent you 4 text messages. He goes, Dad, I don't see them. I go, mate, I know you see them. So now I have to Snapchat them, right? So I've got 3 people on Snapchat, which are my 3 sons. But these guys are used to that environment. People at my age, and God forbid, Paul Jance's age, I think he's
I knew that was coming out.
But we're very awkward with the selfie, right? And we're very awkward with that. And do I look good? Kids are just putting stuff up there all the time. And so you spoke, Lee, about you can't fake authenticity. Yet we try to do it as accountants on our websites, and in social media. Why wouldn't we hand the reins over to somebody who it's a natural space for them to be in?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And that circles back around to Belinda's idea around personal branding, because this is probably, I guess I can feel that some people will be like, well, if I start to promote people who go out to social media and build a personal brand around it, maybe associating themselves with their company, is that risky too? I think Belinda already pressed on that, which was like, maybe you would definitely communicate and have certain boundaries around what you would want them to say and not to say, but obviously keeping a lot of autonomy around that. But you're exactly right. We've got to start to think about, we invest a lot of money in hiring these people. We invest a lot of money in trying to keep these people, and throwing more money at them do we even know that that's what they actually want? Is that really what they want? Just, hey, I've decided you've done a good job this year, here's an extra 10 grand bonus. They go, that's great. Now I know my pay grade's higher. Yeah. I can get a bigger paycheck down the road because I can prove I get paid this by you. Yeah. That's not what's going to keep them. What's going to keep them? That's right. So what's going to keep them is by having meaningful, flexible benefits which actually matter to them. And it's not hard to implement. You could really start softly and think about having maybe a monthly meeting and feedback and just talking to people on a regular basis. Like I had 3 people, and now I've got started off with 2, myself and another person, and now we're at 7. And I do a weekly catch up with every single one of them still. Just, hey, 10 minutes, how are you going? Yeah, how you feeling? What's important? Yeah. Exactly. So, and Belinda's across that as well. So it's
always, don't underestimate a coffee catch up 101.
That's right, yeah, and they appreciate it, but it just goes deeper than that. Like, you're thinking about how much money you spend on your staff, like it's enormous. Your payroll's huge. Like it's obviously, it goes without saying. Like, it's the biggest focus going forward is how do I get these good people and retain them and make them happy and make them know that I care about them and I'm creating safety nets inside the business for them if they get into trouble in any sort of way, or am I creating forums for employees to help each other out in some sort of way? There's a lot of things you could be doing. And as you start to change this feeling of putting your employees up to the front of your company rather than hiding them behind you, people start to see that. And what happens is you go from, how come every time I put a job ad out, I can't get good people that fit, like it's just the wrong people keep applying. I get hundreds of applications for this accounting role. It's not right and this is not going to happen overnight, of course, it's not simple, but because someone comes to your site or sees socials or hears about you and sort of that resonates with them, your culture and the way that your employees talk about your company, you're going to naturally start to attract people that have the same values. At some point, it's going to start to change.
That's a really good point, and I just want to jump to Belinda if I can, because it's a bit of the chicken or the egg, right? Which comes first? And I think there's one thing to put your people at the front of the organisation, but if your culture is rubbish, but those people are front of the organisation. So I think it's also the piece around creating an effective and great work culture and work environment. Belinda, can you share with us some tips on how you think you can promote that and create a wonderful culture? And I'll just preface that by saying when I checked out your website and how you present yourself and your organisation, it looks very crisp, very sharp. I nearly rang you up and said, hey, can I get a job? And then I realised that I actually owned my own business, but that's another story.
You're so funny, by the way, Jason.
Thanks.
I just
Don't feed his ego.
Go back to Leigh. Before I answer, I want to go back to Leigh with what he was saying about personal branding. People get personal branding mixed between sharing their own personal life and sharing the business. So it should be a mix of both. So a personal brand isn't just sharing yourself and your journey along the way, it's sharing both aspects. So if you're creating content in your business at the moment, Jason and Paul, you should be pushing that piece of content out on your personal brand, on LinkedIn and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to kind of put that out there because a lot of people think personal brand is like having Facebook and posting me out with the girls for a drink. Like that is not a personal brand. You know, that's a personal brand. So I just want to make that clear as well.
Okay.
Yeah, for creating culture. I mean, there's so many things to talk about when creating culture. Like,
Give us your top three.
The biggest thing for me, I think the number one thing is super underestimated, which is what I was saying to Leigh, is literally just having coffee or a lunch or a catch up with your staff and asking, are you okay? Like, how's everything going? How are you feeling? What's going on? And I know this sounds so basic and generic, but there's so many times where I've gone up to somebody or a staff member or a client and said, are you okay? Like, how you going? They're like, oh my God, yeah, I'm fine, but I'm actually going through a divorce right now. Thank you so much for asking. Like, nobody's really asked me that, you know? And it's like you start to find out stuff about their life that I never knew about. So,
but in order to do that,
underestimate that.
Sorry, Belinda, but in order to do that, I think it's important that, and Jason, I'm going to come back to you because you are the practitioner, you mentioned before, and we're going to come back to this. So ideally, I want to be able to leave the attendees that are watching this. And by the way, sorry, if you've got a question, please use the Q&A bar. There's a few coming through already, and we'll get to those 100%, I promise you. What you're saying there, Belinda, is one of the key things as well is, and I'll use the word, you need to be present. So as a leader or as a manager, you need to be present, you need to be aware, you need to be able to put your head above the files that may be on your desk or the computer screens that you've got and have a look around. And I think that's just as important, to be able to pick up body language from somebody. Not everyone's good at doing that. So those coffee catch-ups, you also need to make sure that you're allocating time for them. Okay, so we all know we're structured, you know, certainly for all of our attendees, if you're an accounting firm, like other businesses, it's usually the person that screams the loudest gets the most amount of attention. So to be able to bring that back into play and say, right, what do I need to do? Now, I'm a structured person. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. If you're a structured person, put it in your calendar. I know when I managed a team of 50 people in Hawthorn, every single Monday for 2 hours, I would actually walk around the office. I used to call it management by walking around. And you'd be blown away by the, can I swear, Jace? No, I won't. You'd be blown away by the amount of stuff that you might see because you've allocated the time to walk around and just notice, oh, why is that person crying? Like you said before, Belinda. And then you'd go and have a coffee and say, hey guys, is everything all right? Now there's a lot of different, and I know we've spoken about this, even on our virtual lunch that I did 2 weeks ago with Amanda Kennefaken, and she might be on there, big shout out, hi Amanda. AK also spoke about the fact that there's certain pieces of software out there as well that you can use. So if you're getting to a stage where you're going from 2, you're going to 10 sort of people, suddenly Jason's got 60. That's a lot of time. I know you might have divisional managers, but it's a lot of time. Can you use technology now to give you the information you're looking for? The answer is yes. There's software out there that's anonymous. There's software out there that's not anonymous. So people like either, it's going to suit your business. If we come back a little bit, for people that are watching this and saying, well, where do I start? Jason's got a good brand presence, practice, as well as personal. He's been on radio, he's been on TV, he's got a good brand presence. For people that are starting out like this, and probably Jason mentioned it before, average age might be middle age, 48, I think you said you were, Jason. Jesus.
Been hungover, mate. He's up, right?
It's called payback. Where do they start? Can we give us a bit of an idea of where would they start? If they were going to say, right, I want to do this from next Monday to start creating a better brand presence, where would they start? Belinda and Leigh, I'll throw that at both of you. Who's going to go first?
Me? You can go. Jason, I think it's asking you.
No.
Where do we start?
Belinda and Leigh.
Sorry, I thought you said Jason. Where do we start? You go, Leigh.
Yeah, I can go. Look, from my point of view, I guess branding for me, it's probably more Belinda's space, definitely. We're more about financial wellness and well-being and linking that to mental health and basically creating engagement, I guess, programs or big software in place which can help with that. But it first starts with mostly around understanding if there's any underlying things that want to be talked about. And I think it really just starts with a meeting, or it could start with a sort of, depending on the size of the organisation, it could be a quick survey about some meaningful things you want to ask your staff about, things that they may or may not be happy with. And I know that sounds like an old school suggestion box, but you've got to actually put it into practice. Everyone knows these things they have to do, but they're not actually actioning them. It's like having a business coach. You're like, yeah, I know how to do those things, but I'm not actually doing it. And it's also moving from the mentality that maybe me as a team leader or business owner doesn't have all the answers. Maybe my team has the answers, and we can bring our team into a forum to actually solve what the business needs in order to create that help. I'm sure there's a couple of champions in your company which love you and do, like what you're doing and everything, and you sort of want to bring them into it straight away and say, you're really important to this company. Can you help me devise a plan to start communicating with everyone else in the company to figure out what they think is important and how we can do things like maybe we could put together an emergency fund for employees that have off the cuff really large emergencies for something. Maybe we could have something where people donate one day a year each to someone else in the company to help out with, I don't know, childminding. I don't know.
Yep.
Leigh, can I just touch on that for a quick second? There's 2 points I wanted to flag. The first is a slight negative, but you're always open to feedback. I know you. The first thing is there is an inherent danger in opening up a can of worms to people to whinge, and yes. I think we need to be careful of that. So, but there's ways around that, and you can block out the noise if you like, and by just setting it up for success at the start when you send it out. But we had some great success with this in our organisation, and we did it in October of 2019. And we had we felt that our culture was a bit hurt, and so we sent out a survey to our team. And what we did, we didn't just go, hey, what can we improve? We said, what do we do really well? What should we start doing, and what should we stop doing, right? And that old school, and you said an old school suggestion box, mate, there's fucking nothing wrong with that. I mean, I used to work at Ford Motor Company a long time ago, and they had a suggestion box in the plant, and there was a hailstorm, and when they built the cars would come out of the plant, and there was a hailstorm that damaged like 500 cars. And so the powers that be at Ford Motor Company were going to build an enormous new factory. And one bloke wrote on his suggestion, why don't we build a big tent, right? And so they put up a big tarpaulin. I think it cost 250,000 as opposed to 25 million, right? And it did the same job. So I think the suggestion box is good, but I think when you frame it to say, what are we doing really well? What should we start doing? What should we stop doing? I think that gives you, it sort of moves people from just whinging.
Yep. But
we did it, as I mentioned, in October 2019, and we threw that out there, and we had 4 or 5 real key things that came back to us. The first was, we want the opportunity to work remotely because we feel it's a bit rigid, and having to come to work 8:30 till 5 is really challenging. We want the opportunity to participate in flexible work hours, And, you know, because some of us want to start earlier, some of us want to start later. We want the opportunity to dress for our day. And there was one other which I can't remember, obviously wasn't that exciting. For those top three, we started a process around flexible work hours, around working remotely and dressing for your day, right? As an adjunct to that, we decided that we needed to really focus on being an output-focused business as opposed to an input-focused business. Now, what I mean by an input-focused business is your inputs. Get to work at 8:15, make a coffee, start at 8:30, hit that timesheet, go to lunch, blah, 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 finish at 5 to what have you actually produced for the day.
Results.
So we started that process. And then lo and behold, some lunatic in China bit into a bat, coughed on somebody, and the whole world went into lockdown. And we were already a few steps ahead because we'd started this flexible working environment. So, mate, I concur. I mean, don't get me wrong, we weren't fully ready like everybody else, but we were 50% of the way there.
But Jason, Jason, one of the key things you just...
lucky ones.
But Jason, one of the key things
Sorry,
so one of the key things you just mentioned there as well is that you did this in 2019. Now, to a lot of firms watching this, and probably this is my, Jason, I used to coach the practice a long time ago, so my coaching hat goes on a little bit. If you're not feeling comfortable doing that, and if that's not your style of management or leadership, bring in an external party. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, so the ability to bring in an external party with great skills to bring out information like that is super valuable.
Yeah.
Then we sit down as a group and say, right, what are we going to do next? What's our action points for the next 30 days, next 90 days? And it's a rolling 90-day program. Those things are super valuable. So I think you said the same thing. Did you guys do it yourself, Jose, or did you bring someone else in?
No, we did it ourselves. At the time, we had a P&C manager, people and culture manager, and I'm not remiss in the fact that our business is a little bit bigger than not saying that we're enormous, but we got 50 people in Melbourne, so we had a dedicated HR resource.
Yep.
She no longer works with us, and we have now outsourced our HR, the hard stuff, the HR function, and they are doing it. But we're finding with this outsourced HR solution, they're getting information that's probably a little bit closer to the truth than if Jason asked it. Because sometimes people just give the feedback that they think Jason wants to hear.
Right.
So I think there's some validity in
Can I just add to this? I guess the conversation around suggestion boxes and all these things. So there's three levels that I typically look at for myself personally inside an organisation and building my own company right now again from scratch. And that is, I'm looking at the surface area that I can touch, which is flexible work hours, days off, those sort of really surface things that you can fix for people. And then you've got a monetary change that you can make to people, which impacts them, which is pay them some more, give them extra time, give them some bonuses here, extra money or whatever for working certain jobs. And then there's the stuff that we really, really want to hit home with, which is their personal pain. And we've got to get through those layers down into that personal pain to really join that person to your company. So you've got to delve part through those layers of the surface, the monetary, down into their personal pain of each employee. And that takes a little bit of practice and tactical time to get into that. But when you get that, that's when you get complete buy-in from the bottom of your workforce, and they'll spread that, that feeling and that culture through. Personal pain though comes from more like one-on-one. So you've given a suggestion box that you've done all these things. You might have given some people some bonuses and stored credit cards or something for something. But then below that, you're pulling specific team members or tactically team members aside and actually interviewing them one-on-one about their problems with personal pain and digging that out of them, and then building employee benefit schemes around that inside your company. So, and then every time something comes into your company, people are emotionally and directly tied to those benefit schemes that you're creating. They're not just another, off the cuff thing, we need to get gym memberships because everyone goes to the gym, so they must want to be healthy, right? It's more understanding what they want, and that will build an extremely strong bedrock. Like what really needs to be understood here is you pay people to come to work, but you right now don't understand whether or not they're actually actually as productive as they could be.
Yep.
And the reason why they might not be so productive is because they're highly distracted from outside forces around them, which you have no idea are going on inside your company. They will not tell you about it. They won't come to you about it unless you set up that environment for them to do that. And then once you get to do that and they're proud and happy to come to work, they're working efficiently, they're not distracted by financial stress or problems or something else, or you're making them come to work 9 to 5, but I'm a little bit hesitant to tell you that I always pick my kids up at 4, so I don't tell my husband to leave work early.
Yeah.
There's all that tension at home.
Yep.
And if we just had a chat to her and moved her hours, it could alleviate her distraction and be highly productive in that sense. So your dollars are going further with you.
Yeah, and that's going back to having those one-on-one conversations. They always work.
Yeah, it's funny, we're doing some work at the moment, we're doing some work with one of our coaches at the moment who talks about creating an environment where people feel like they belong. And I think you're talking about that, having that intimate, dangerous sort of word I could use there, but intimate one-on-one conversation, a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and PJ's basically a few cases of wine with the drinking problem he's got. But I want to go back, Belinda, if you can just I want you to expand on those one-on-one conversations, but also and I want to circle back to getting what are the first 2 or 3 things we can do to start to create a brand and a meaningful brand, not only for our organisation, but also our personal brand and a brand within the brand.
Perfect. So how you start a brand is go to Enamus, ENAMUS.com. I'm kidding.
Oh God, it's got down.
Yeah. It's the shameless plug. So that's really interesting because people don't really know, I guess, what a brand is until they dig deep on discovery sessions on what they are actually trying to achieve. The first thing is, what is it that you're trying to do? Is it brand awareness, like building content or building a PR system where you can create more brand presence online, which is brand awareness? But brand awareness doesn't give you anything in return. It does very slowly along the way. But for example, things like this. Why are you doing this right now? Is it to create content to build brand awareness, or is it to get a return on investment potential leads where people are listening in on the webinar? So it's like, why are we doing what we're doing? Is it to get leads? Is it to get clients? To get staff? You need to figure out that first.
Yeah.
So what is the reasoning behind having a brand? And the second one is a major one, which most people tend to kind of miss out on, is does your brand stand out enough to A, attract talent, B, to attract clients? Because some cases, people show up online and their brand is terrible. Like they're running like a software company and it doesn't even look like it, but I'm like, this looks like a retail store. How is this a software company? You're selling a product that, thousands and thousands of dollars. You're trying to attract Amazon Australia and Oracle and all these big companies, billions of dollars of companies, but your website looks shit. Your brand looks crap. You need a revamp. You need a whole rebrand. So some people get caught up in thinking that their brand's amazing, but in most cases, they probably need a whole rebrand and makeover in the first place. And that's the reason why they're not getting the return on investment they want. That's the reason why they're not attracting people. And that's the reason why they're not getting the clients that they want as well. So,
Can you just tell us how you went through and created your brand? Can you just workshop it in 3 or 4 minutes? How did you go? So I'm listening to you saying, okay, yeah, all right, I'm trying to work out what brand do I want to portray? What am I trying to do? But how do you actually physically do it? What did you do when you created your brand? Do you mind sharing us that secret?
Well, the biggest thing is done is better than perfect. A lot of people get caught up in, having the whole production set up and doing everything extravagant and spending the big budget for marketing, spending all these, Google ads and Facebook ads. But in the end, your brand, doesn't really stand out, or you're creating not really great content. So you can be spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per month, which we actually currently have a client that came to us doing this. He was spending $200,000 a month and he wasn't even getting his return on investment whatsoever. So what it came down to is his brand and the content he was pushing out. It wasn't aligning. It was very messy. People didn't know what they were actually asking for. So done is better than perfect. Just be consistent with the content that you're putting out, and make sure everything that you're pushing out is aligned to what you're actually doing. Because if you start talking about other things and go on a tangent about other topics, people get really confused. It's like, what do they actually do? Are they a media company? Are they an accountant firm? Like, what is it they're actually doing, right? So I think you just need to keep aligned to what you're doing, and done is better than perfect, because we're not perfect, right? Just keep doing and be consistent. And that's what we've done since about a year now. We've been on LinkedIn.
That's pretty good bit of advice there. That done is better than perfect. I know a lot of us accountants are somewhat of, well, we're technicians by trade. We are sometimes perfectionists, and we want everything to be perfect. And so therefore we don't release anything until it's 100% correct. Just say, get it 80%, 90% of the way there, get it out. Because at least it's out there and you've made a start, then you can refine it along the journey. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And another thing I want to add to that quickly, Paul, sorry, is when you're producing content and pushing out content, you need to be consistent. So if you're posting one a week, let's say you're posting 5 a week, and then you start posting 1 a week, that can mess with your algorithm. So it will defavor you and push you right back down to where you were originally. So you need to be consistent. If you're going to post 5 pieces a week, keep posting 5 pieces a week forever. You need to really stick to that. Consistency is key.
Yeah. Now it's important.
So the message in that to me is just once a week, and start it once a week, because I ain't doing 5 a week.
No, but the key message
so
in there.
20 a week.
The key message in there, Belinda, is don't use too big words for Jace, because the algorithm, he's not sure about that. But very good point.
2 syllables maximum. Okay, 2 syllables maximum.
Exactly. But the key thing that I've always said.
I was just going to say, I think Jason's here had a pretty strong word there. Accountants quite, they're technicians generally, right? So you're masters of your craft.
That's right.
So moving into this this space of well-being and employee engagement, all these things sounds like a bucket of work.
Yep.
And look, in my experience, if we can show you, and we don't sell wellness programs or anything, but it's more about if you can get some understanding around your attrition rate, your hiring costs, and how much money you're really losing for productivity, that might actually make you stand up in your chair, put your shoulders back, and think, yeah, if I can cut out even 50 grand a year from my bottom line by just spending 1 hour a week on this stuff, maybe, just maybe, we'll have a bit more profit on that bottom line, and I can draw a pencil under it.
That's a good point.
Absolutely, that's a great way to
just a couple of things there. I think for our attendees and our firms watching this, exactly what Belinda Leigh and Jay said then, do something. Doing something is better than nothing. Everyone needs a starting platform. So if that means you need to start off and then you need to improve it, that's okay. Okay, so don't be afraid to seek help. You want to reach out to me, you want to reach out to Lee, you want to reach out to Belinda, you want to reach out to Jace, reach out. There's no one will ever, certainly if you reached out to me, I would never say no to having a chat to someone to how you can go about that, doing that even better. So those are the sorts of things, people are willing to do that. But doing something is better than doing nothing, because that procrastination tool, again, your team members, if you're talking about doing things, you go and do a day like what Jason said before, and then you do nothing, you will kill your culture.
Yeah.
Paulie, can I just touch on something there that you raised, and Lee picked up on it around this technician piece, right? And I think the accountant is a wonderful beast, of which I am one, and I'm a proud accountant, okay? But you need to know who you are, and I'm very confident that we have got an amazing firm, and we're very good, we add value to our customer around the compliance piece, around the potential awareness piece, and around helping them build better businesses. I know we do that really well, but I know there's a couple of things that we don't do very well, right? And, we can send out a survey monthly, Lee, and ask our guys some, superficial type surface questions to get some stuff and make some good quick changes, but we don't have the skill set to go deep and have deep conversations with our clients. But what we do is we engage a third party who's an expert in that area. It's
Correct.
very similar, Polly, PJ, it's very similar to the relationship we had with C2 Capital. And, you know, the space that you guys operate in the alternatives, that's not our level of expertise. And so when we've got clients that we know are suited to that sort of type of investment, that's when I bring PJ and say, hey, I need you to speak to this guy and this guy. Because if we try to be a master to everybody, a jack of all trades to everybody, we're going to get it wrong. But sometimes, Leigh, it's inherent in our DNA as accountants to try and do everything. And I hear what Belinda's saying, something is better than nothing. But I mean, I put a lot of content out myself personally, and I've written and authored 2 books, but I didn't write them. I used to ghostwriter. I mean, I can speak until the count. I can speak underwater with a mouthful of marbles, a mouthful of bowling balls, and for the love of God, if there's a void, my voice will fill it. But when I go to write something, it comes out like the Queen's English. So I dictated 2 books and got a guy who can write eloquently, take out all my swear words. So the word count went from 80,000 to 40,000 pretty quickly, right? What we did is, I've got the ideas, he produces the great content, and then together, through collaboration and through synergy, the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts.
Yep.
So I think it's in part with the branding piece that Belinda's talking about, it's in part working out who do I want to be and how do I want to portray myself. Then engage an expert, whether it's Belinda or somebody else, engage an expert to tidy it up and sharpen it up and polish it up. It's like with what Leigh's communicating about the mental health and the state of your team members. Begin the process, get some of the bones together, then bring in the expert who can deal, who's equipped to deal with it. I mean, for the love of God, what does an accountant know about having conversations with somebody that's, you know, experiencing depression or heightened anxiety or going through a divorce or their brother's got a drug affliction, you know, all that, which is pretty much, I've actually just commented on PJ all 4 topics there. But how do we, you know, we're not equipped to do that, but we do have access to the people, access to the experts, bring them in to get the better result.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is absolutely correct, Jason. Like, you're not advocating definitely that we're expecting you to go off and have these deeper conversations with people, but it's really just identifying that these things are important to my employee or my workforce. We all know that you don't have a legal responsibility for people outside of work, but it's an ethical responsibility.
That's right.
So it's a shift from, you know, it's not my concern, it's the employee's concern.
Leigh, there's a part of me.
I understand how. Yeah,
Sorry, mate, I didn't mean to interrupt. There's a part of me that also believes that shifting, though. I think you do have a responsibility, you know, in terms of just making sure that people's mental welfare and being aware as a boss, as a manager, as a director, whatever it may be, to actually make sure that people are mentally well.
It's an interconnected workforce now. People are interconnected, like technology is interconnected. People are at work, they're spending their income on things, and you know, you're directing them, and you know, you can push them in directions that are going to help them be better off, which means they're going to be happier, and you're actually taking an interest in, you know, holistically their lives. So when they come to work, like I said, they're going to be less distracted and be able to put more effort into what they really want to do. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's, you know, it's hard to change that. Really, you know, it's always just been about look, if I just pay people a lot of money, that's going to make them happy. Or and it's been shifting for a long time. Probably the last 10 years, large corporates have realised that it costs them markets of money to hire and retain and engage and keep people happy and productive. But you know, you get contacted by recruiters all the time. I mean, you get smacked 15 grand to hire somebody. Like, how many times a year do you want to do that?
Correct. Right. Now, just to stop for a second there, guys. Sorry, Jason. I'm just going to jump to a few questions that we've got here. So, given the fact that we are sitting at 1:26 Melbourne time, so I've got one here from Damien. So this probably goes back to, Jay, some of the things that you were talking about, and he says, so presumably the practice still owns the clients. And this was, I think, when we were talking about how you get to start promoting the brand of other team members and they could leave. And I think at the end of the day, the firm still owns the clients, yes?
No, so I'll, thanks for your question, Damon. It's a ripper, and I will politely and respectfully disagree with you on that. In the sense that nobody owns the client owns himself. I get the line of where your question's coming from. And one of the things, we've spent a fair bit of brass on tightening up our employment contracts and tightening up our policy and procedure documents. But the last thing we want to do is sue anyone or go to court. So it's just there to sort of put the fear of God into our team members. And I think, so we've been in business 23 years, and I think at last count, we've had 14 team members leave our organisation and start up their own business. 14. Yeah. I'm actually really proud of that. Yeah. And that's a great legacy that Robbie, my partner Rob, and I have set. But the conversation I have with every team member is, what I want you to be crystal clear is, I have no problem at all if you want to go off and start your own business, but it needs to be exactly that. You start your own business. You don't take my business and start it somewhere else. And I need to be hard but fair, and I think that's fair. And I understand where David's question is coming from, but we don't own anyone. They own themselves and they have the right to make their own decision. What we can do is constrict the team members from trying to pinch their clients.
Next question. You can do a non-compete clause as well.
Yeah, good point.
For a certain amount of period, which is usually 12 months.
Absolutely.
Stan Corner, good to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Stan's asked, how do you find the balance, let's say, between sharing the business goals and the personal goals? Is that something that, and probably Jace, you and probably just to quickly go around for a couple of minutes and we talk about that. So, and I think that falls in line with once everyone's got that bigger picture of knowing where everything sits. People want to know direction. Yeah. Where does my role fit into the direction of the company?
Yeah, I'll be really quick and then I'll pass it on to Belinda, who can then pass it over to Leigh. So one of the things that we try to glean from elite sporting teams, and you and I love the AFL, is how well-oiled an elite AFL football club is. And let's be honest, Essendon and Carlton are not that well-oiled at the moment. But if you take a high-performing team like Richmond and Hawthorn previously, before that the Brisbane Lions and these sorts of footy clubs, is that every single team member involved in that team, both on and off field, are distinctly and completely aware of the game plan. And on top of that, every team member knows their role in said game plan. I play on the back flank and my role is to do this. So we try to take that and that mentality, as well as the free giving of feedback. The elite athlete, she demands feedback daily, hourly. How do I get better as a player? So what we try to do is we try to take those principles into our organisation and we say to our team, this is the direction that we're heading in at the practice, and this is what our strategy looks like. This is how we behave. These are our core values and these are our guiding principles. And this is what it looks like, this is what it sounds like, and this is what it feels like in everyday behaviour. And then we promote feedback as regularly as we possibly can. That's sort of what we try to do. Well, I'm just interested to hear from you, Belinda, as to your thoughts on that question from Stan.
I think personal and business, a lot of people talk about don't make friends with your colleagues or don't allow family members to get involved in your business. I actually go against that because I like to play A, against the grain, but B, I found that most of my colleagues and most of the people that I hire have become really good friends. And because of that, I've been able to retain them as staff members. And B, I would say, not only creating friendships in that circle, but asking, what is their game plan for 12 months to 5 years? Like, what is it that they're wanting to do? What's the goal? What's the aspirations? Because as individuals, we all have purposes and why we're doing what we're doing. So getting to the understanding of why they are working here and what is it that they're wanting to achieve in, let's say, 5 years' time, and allowing them to be able to do that. Like, I am a big advocate for side hustles. Most people don't allow that, but I'm all for it. I'm like, if you want to, have a side hustle in creating a blog or a community or creating something on the side, I'm like, go. Like, how can I help you? As long as it's obviously not competing with our brand and what we're doing, but I'm a huge advocate for that, because the more that I allow that, the more loyal they become to me and the longer they will stay. So that's kind of my game plan with that.
Well said.
What about you, Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I really agree with what Belinda said about side hustle. I think in this day and age, we can't expect people to be not doing things on the side and pretending it's not happening and trying to punish them for doing it. It's more about going back to the question, and obviously, Jason, you're the elite team sports thing. I gobble that up. I love that idea. But it's going back to the question about separating the company's goals versus the personal goals of the employee. Really, you know, you're going to have those company goals, and you want to be sitting down with these people and trying to flesh out what their personal goals are, obviously, and trying to link those to your company in some form. So how can the company's goals align to your personal goals, and can we help you as an organisation achieve those personal goals? Is that one day off a month to study? I don't know. But if you stay at this organisation, we're going to help you achieve some of those personal things, if it's within our boundaries, of course. And that's they're going to be with you for a long time to do those things, because they're building their own life around your company, so to speak.
And there's plenty of, you know, there's also plenty of research. You sort of look at companies like Google that allow innovation time to be creative. And I think in today's world, you actually want to encourage that entrepreneur to come out in people, because hopefully that comes back to you, and it'll probably come back to you tenfold. I agree with all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, it has gone 1:34, and I certainly appreciate everyone for staying online. Leigh Dunsford, if you want to check out Leigh, check out 925. He's got a great new program there. So have a look at it, see if it's for you guys, see if you can differentiate yourself as an employer. I know they're doing some fantastic things in the space. Belinda Agnew, thank you very much for joining us today as well, certainly from a branding point of view, recruitment point of view. Belinda's very active. So even if you wanted to sort of get ideas of how to start building that brand awareness that Belinda spoke about, check her out on LinkedIn. She is very active. She posts a lot, and it is very, very good content. So to both you guys as guests and panelists, thank you very much for joining us today. Jace, you and I, mate, good banter, buddy, good banter.
Yes.
Now, just quickly, I just want to share a couple of things. If you wanted to start from, again, a starting point, do yourself a favour. Next week, it's a short week. We've got 2 short weeks coming up with Easter. Block out half a day. Start asking yourselves a few things. Start asking yourself, what is my game plan? We're about to close off a quarter, about to enter the last quarter of the financial year. You've got a nice opportunity to say, am I clear on that? If I'm not clear on it, my team can't be clear on it. So then try and work out who else needs to be engaged in that game plan. So you start to, again, share. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to share. And I think that's a great thing, you know, and if you are, reach out and we can certainly help you. That's probably the next thing you can do, I think. And there's a lot of content here. So all of this will be online in our Professional Partners Plus TV channel on YouTube. So if you want to go back, you want to get it, you want to review it, look at all the nice things that Jason said about me. That's a really important thing. And the next thing I'd just like to share is our next virtual lunch. So our next virtual lunch is in 2 weeks. So you'll get an invite soon. We're going to be talking about cyber security. Now, a big one in terms of data. We know it's played a massive role over the last probably 3-4 years. And we know the people trying to steal data at the moment are cleverer than us. So we've got 2 experts coming on to talk about that as well and how we can start to protect what we have. So look out for that. That's our next virtual lunch. Leigh, Belinda, Jace, got anything to say, Jace? Last parting comment?
Thank you so much.
Well, I've just actually really enjoyed it, and I'm going to reach out to you, Belinda, and also you, Leigh. I do appreciate what you've given us free of charge, and yeah, I'm pretty intrigued to find out a bit more. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Let's hope the Bombers have a win this weekend. Janso, keep away from rehab. That's probably good for you, I would have thought. And yeah, I'll see you next match.
People in glass houses.
Yeah.
So guys, thanks for joining us.
All the best to
Thank
you.
you so much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.